Alright, so today we're going to be doing engine timing, and like you see in the last video, we're taking off the water pump because it's got to all be replaced. There's a few things I want to point out for you here if we get into timing. On these N52s, even N54s, they have this upper hose that's held on with two little 10 bolts. It goes to the top of the engine here, has a water neck that it goes into, and these are notorious about that plastic shearing off. Now, that one's sheared off, that one's sheared off. This one even sheared off at 92,000 miles. So I'll give you a big time warning. If you're thinking about doing a water pump, if you're going to remove that hose, better think twice before you unbolt it. Now, for our case, it doesn't really make any difference. We have time to order one. We're going to go do that right now. And we need to make sure that our lower hoses are good. Somebody's replaced that one. Looks like everything else is fine. You're going to be looking for any kind of bulging. All that stuff looks pretty good. Doesn't seem to be deteriorated at all. So we need to order that hose. Anyhow, moving on. Let's go ahead and flip this thing over. We got the water pump unbolted, and we're just ready to simply just lift it off. So lift it all off one big chunk. We'll set it in a drain pan. Let it drain out. We're going to flip this back over. Okay, so we got her all tilted up here. The water pump is off. It was on this side, you can see. And overall not too bad, but you can see now why we want to do this valve cover. This thing has 130,000 miles on it. Something's going on here. It could be an oil spill, but at this mileage, the way it looks, never been replaced. Almost tripped. Never been replaced. The PVC is probably roached and also needs to be replaced. So we have a whole new entire valve cover. So what we're gonna do here, we just pull the coil packs out. The coil packs actually look like somebody's replaced these. They all look fairly new. And are they Bosch or not? They are not. They are not. Okay. Well, I mean, usually that's still okay though. Unless they got the cheapest China stuff they reduce, usually they still work fine on these engines. So everything else, I'm looking down in the valves, everything looks okay. And you can see our crankshaft pin, which is right there, if you can see that, and that comes through back there. It's gonna be where we're gonna drop our crankshaft pin at. We might go ahead and pull the crankshaft sensor out and wipe it off, kind of make sure everything looks okay with that. And other than that, we're just gonna get the little impact out. We're gonna start off by we're gonna go and take these two bolts here out. We're gonna take this little bolt here on the bottom out, that little E-Torx, and that's gonna let us take the eccentric shaft motor out. And they're just gonna zip off all this stuff on the outside, and then down in the middle here, there is, use a deep well 10. There's one right there, and there's one under that. If I remember right, there's one under that eccentric shaft motor. So let's go ahead and pull it all out, boys, and see what's going on in there. Okay. Got all the bolts out, everything's loose, the eccentric shaft motor's out, and we should be able to just simply pop it up here. Let's see, gingerly. Oh buddy, she's been on there for a while. She's pretty crispy. This makes me really be glad that I made the choice I did and buy a whole new one. So if we break it, getting it off, it's not really the end of the world. We'll try not to break it. There's really nowhere to pry on these besides right into the middle of it, and this baby is freaking tight, boys. No pun intended. Didn't mean it like that. Didn't mean it like that. There we go. She's crusty. Real crusty. I'll try to just get somewhere to lift up on it. Holy buddy. Usually they kind of come off fairly easy. I mean, if I keep prying on it, I'm going to break it, no doubt. And triple check that everything loose. The 3 bolts in the middle are loose. Everything else is loose. It should come right out. There we go. How you're supposed to be able to do it is just grab it by the top or grab it, you know, by this and just pull up and it'll pop right off. But when she's crusty, that's kind of the way it goes. Let me set this down. Definitely going to get a glove on here, and we're gonna pop that off and see. You can see firsthand how this new engine looks, or new to us engine. All right. We didn't pre-plan. There's nowhere to put it. Don't really want to leave it like that. Holy. Okay. Well, it looks pretty clean. Looks really clean, actually. But, you know how it goes. You never can tell. We're going to have to pull this exhaust cam and check those bearing journals. Just the first glance at it, I don't see none of the rocker arms have fallen out. Everything looks intact. Everything looks good. We need to, well, check the spark plugs. If they're having any age at all on them, we'll order some new ones for us. One thing I did not do that I should have done already, because I already had those coming, but we kind of wanted to see first what was happening there. Everything else seems to be good. Looks like somebody's actually changed the oil in this. I mean, other than the squirter is falling off in the oil pan, it actually might run. Okay, engine timing. So this is what we're going to do. This is how I do it. We start off with by putting a 22mm ratchet on the crank bolt so we can turn it over. We'll take the spark plugs out. We'll put a long screwdriver, number 1, just so it sits down in there. Make sure it doesn't bind up on anything. We're going to turn it over. We're going to turn it over until this little barcode jobby is facing up. And that should be that way on both the camshafts. And the screwdriver should be at the furthermost up position. And that's where it's at. Now, we should be able to go back here since, well, we're going to put the damn flex plate back on. That's not a big deal. We could do that. Anyway, we'll put the flex plate back on so we could time it correctly. And the pin's going to go into the flex plate. So, well, let me go and reinstall that right now. Okay, so here's what we have. Got the valve cover just lifted off. As you've seen, everything looks great, blah, blah, blah. We want to put the flex plate back on, tighten the bolts up, then reinstall the engine stand. And here's what we have. So N52 in my kit takes the black timing pin, and then it passes through the little flex plate into this hole. And there's a hole right below. I don't know if you can see that or not. There's like a bigger hole below. It's easy to get into that or get in the bigger hole up here. See? And you think you're in the right one, but you're not. And I think it'll even go in when the hole's right next to that. But it's in the outermost hole. When it's in there, you cannot turn it at all. It's totally locked in. And the timing kit we have is actually in my Amazon store. Links in the description. Is this guy. I think it was like 120 or 150 bucks. This does all the N-series engines. So it does N51, N52, N53, N54, N55. So pretty much all your 6-cylinder engines up to 2013. That's a handy kit to have. It's super easy to use. It just has a bridge. Well, we'll come back here in a minute and we'll show you. What we're going to do right now, we're going to go ahead and take out the timing tensioner, which is right here. We're going to remove that. Once that's removed, we're going to loosen these bolts. And then once we loosen that up, we're going to take out these two bolts right here in the guide. And we're going to go ahead and take this bolt completely out. And I think even without loosening the guide up, we take this bolt completely out, we could then take all these bolts out. And we could lift that top box off of that cam. We're going to see. I'm going to show you a few things in there. If you haven't seen my past videos, I'll show you a few more things in there on what to look for. Alright, so hit the wrong button on the camera. We're all good now. We have all the bolts out. Like I said, we have this bolt just pulled out where it's not in the cam anymore. This guy here is just kind of flopping. We took the 2 bolts out of the guide, and because the one in the guide does go on the top of here, actually both of them go on the top of here. All the bolts are loose. We're just gonna lift this off and take a little look-see. Hopefully, get it out with one hand. Hopefully everything is good. And it looks like everything is good. You see, whoop. All the bearing journals look good. The ledges are good. There's no ridge on it. The camshaft looks good. See how the bearings are good. Whoop, got the microphone in the oil. Yeah, man, looks really good actually. Cam lobes are fine. It's just one thing you kind of have to check. I mean, if you don't check it and you start up and it's ticking, well, and what the story with this is, what happens is these ledges or the bearing journals themselves get scratched up and it loses oil pressure and it does not feed the lifters correctly and they tick. These engines kind of had a problem with that. Usually it's only 07 or early 08. But this car was a late 08, or this engine was from a late 08. That has a problem fixed. So it looks like everything is fine. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and put all this back together. We're going to torque these down. I think it was 15 foot-pounds. I'll have to double check that and make sure. Torque it all back down. We're going to get the timing tools out. We're going to go ahead and set the timing tools up on this. Alright, so we have just these 2 bolts are just kind of snugged up my fingers and backed off just a hair, so, well, so we can still spin that to get it lined up, right, on both of them. Then this is only torqued to 1 foot-pounds. It's basically just snug down with your fingers. That holds the chain tight in the right spot. We put our bridge on with the labels, QR codes facing up, like I showed you. We're going to install the bridge. There's 2 10mm bolts run all the way through and screw into the head and then one of the valve cover bolt holes on each side. Now to turn this, on the exhaust cam you have a little hole here. You get a pair of needle pliers and just turn a little bit. You get this side started, and on the other side it's not very hard to turn, right? You can just grab it anywhere there's not a lobe. So like you grab it in here with a pair of pliers or whatever and just gently turn it. It don't take much. And then that lets that line up and you take something, just tap a little bit, and that vibration will make it go right down. But make sure that both sides are seated all the way flat against the head. And everything is good to go. It looks like it is. But we just snugged these up. We didn't hog them down or anything. We just snugged them up. And now we're going to time the Vanos. We have a Vanos jig. We have actually 3 of them. And for N52, we are going to use the silver one right here. And how this works, if I could do it one hand or not, whoops, hit you guys with it, is we're going to basically line up. Well, it might help if I put you in the right spot here. We're going to line that up like so. Another one we're going to spin. Very hard to do with one hand. Like that. I have to use both hands. You have to go in evenly, right? So it matches up. Then the kit comes with a bolt for each end. We'll snug that up. And at that point in time, we go and torque the bolts up here. Now we're going to torque these to 15 foot-pounds plus 180 degrees. So let's go ahead and we're going to do that. We're going to torque those, and after do 180 degree with the degree wheel, I can tell you about what the foot-pounds of that are. Okay, so like I was just saying, we want 15 foot-pounds and then 180, which is a lot. It ends up like 55 foot-pounds. These degree wheels, there's one of these in my Amazon store too. I need to buy another one, and how this works is it has like a little peg, and you could put that against something, you could torque it, and it'll show you on the degree wheel when you turn it what degree you're going to. And that is, this thing just makes the gauge stay still, right? They're pretty expensive, like 10 or 12 bucks, but I need to buy a 3/8 one. I only have a half inch. It makes it inconvenient. My half inch torque wrench doesn't go down real far. So 15 foot-pounds, it works fine though. But if you're doing something that's like, 7 or so foot-pounds and then so many degrees, it's hard to do with a half inch torque wrench. Anyway, that being said, if you don't have this, you can set this at 55 foot-pounds. That's going to be plenty good. Everything is torqued down right now. So the Vanos, both Vanoses are set, both Vanoses are locked in, and everything is done as far as the timing goes. Now, we go ahead and take this back out, put the tensioner back in, pull all the blocks off, and the timing is done. What I want to do next, and we'll take a little precaution here doing this, I want to go ahead and remove this oil filter housing before we put the valve cover back on. I want to make sure that none of these bolts snap off, and we know the old engine had a broken bolt in it. They're kind of common for that, but not super common for it. And there was 4 bolts in total. We'll go ahead and pull that housing off because we have to use the other housing. Well, we're going to put a new gasket on this anyway, and we have the other housing has a cooler on the front, so we're going to want to use that. So I guess we'll go ahead and do that now and see how that pans out. Then we're going to reinstall the new valve cover and all the other new goodies we got for this engine. Alright, I think I'm getting to a stopping point here for tonight, getting pretty late. All the timing, everything's off the timing except for the chain tensioner there. Remove that here probably tomorrow. And everything's set up, everything works good. It's rubbing the flywheel, the flex plate a little bit back there, but I can still turn over with a ratchet. In the front, everything rotates over fine. The timing should be right on. Kind of wanted to check that exhaust cam, the reason why we did that, and verify the timing is correct. Looked like everything was good to go. We have our oil filter housing off. We checked all the bolts, all the head bolts. There's one under each cam. Sketchy. Heard something creak, and I hate those aluminum bolts in that engine stand. It's very scary. But so far it's been fine. So we went and took a little pick and checked all the head bolts in here. Just kind of made sure everything's tight. Made sure that none of the bolts are broken. And they weren't. Everything seemed like it was good. We didn't do a head gasket on this. Usually they don't have that problem. This has been overheated. I mean, we're kind of like right here, I almost kind of wondered we should have just went ahead and done it and been done with it. But I don't know. I mean, it's just probably another 120, 150 bucks for a new head gasket and new head bolts. So I don't know. I mean, it's kind of one of those. I think we get to all the bolts without taking the cams out. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe we'll look at some prices tonight, but we need to get this project up and going. So that's gonna be it. We'll be back tomorrow. It'll be overnight for me. It'll be about 3 seconds for you. Okay. So once again, in this clip, the microphone didn't work. Really got to figure out something out about that. It's getting to be an issue. So here we have, it's the next day, everything's all tightened up, everything's all done. So what I'm explaining here is exhaust camshaft. There's actually a tool set, a jig, to set that cam box back in the right place, right? But a lot of guys say you don't need that. Once you set that down on there, you can't move it anyway. I'm not really sure what they're talking about. I never had an issue. But at any rate, we didn't do those. We never do those. Talking about the new valve cover. We're going to reinstall the new valve cover. This is the $99 valve cover. The links in my Amazon store is $99 or $110. You get the new bolts, new gaskets, and everything with it. And the bolts on these are actually steel, not aluminum. A lot of people don't know that. But the steel bolts still have the heads pop off sometimes. I'm not really sure what's going on with that, but it's just kind of the way it is. And basically here I'm talking about the cam holders again. And like I said, it's like 300 or 350 bucks if you could even find them. I just didn't see that being a necessity. Never had issues. Usually the wear on these is because the old engine or somebody's running low on oil. They'll eat at the cam journals, the journal bearings, and the cam ledges. So, yeah, I'm just blabbing on about that. And we're going to go on here to the... No, okay. So here's the head bolt issue I was talking about. I'm going to show you here in a second. We're going to go to the old engine. The head bolts on this engine are good. This is the new one. They have a tendency to shear off because they're aluminum. There's bolts under the camshafts. I'm going to show you here now on the old engine, the sheared off head bolts, if I can get around there without getting my shoes all dirty. And you can see right there is a broken bolt. And I believe that engine actually had 3 broken bolts. Some of the other bolts under the camshafts were sheared off also. And those are aluminum head bolts. So, I mean, the decision not to replace those on this late 08 engine is probably okay. I mean, we didn't take them off. They usually don't have that problem except on the earlier 06, 07, and early 08. And the new engine is not that. So it should be fine. I'm going to show you the sheared off head bolts now. You can see, maybe you can see, that one the head's missing, and the other one it's still on there. And it's usually from overheating or from the factory over tightening them. The only way those aluminum bolts break is if you over tighten them pretty much. And they even have a tendency to bust off the oil filter housing. Even though those are steel bolts, I'm not really sure why they do that, but sometimes they do that. And like I said, it's probably an overheated situation. So the new valve cover is missing 2 bolts when we got it, for whatever reason. But for the price, that's more than fine. So we just took 2 of the old bolts and used, they were steel bolts, so it doesn't really make any difference. And I'm not really sure what I'm blabbing about there at this point. There's the old greasy, crusty valve cover on the floor. And the spark plug tubes. Yeah, so the spark plug tubes, we took those from the old valve cover, put them in the new ones. There's 2 different clicks. You barely push them in from the bottom or the top. You can feel it click once and it locks in place. If you push too hard, it'll just fall through. And if you've crushed those, taking the old valve cover out, you might want to get new ones. You can buy those separately. Some valve covers come with them, but I don't think it's very common to get those with the valve cover. And just cleaned up the gasket surface, getting it prepped to put that on. And overall, as you see here in a minute, it goes pretty smoothly. And we did put the flex plate back on and turned over the ratchet, even though the bolts were hitting from the engine stand were hitting the flex plate. We could still turn it over and verify nothing was hitting together. Everything was good to go. I'm not sure what I'm blabbing about right there, but oh yeah, the AC compressor is also different. We're going to put the Vanos solenoids in here shortly. We have new ones of those. Not to say these are bad. Maybe we'll throw these on the shelf. Okay, so the camera microphone apparently is still not working. We got the new valve cover installed. That came with the eccentric shaft gasket. Came with a new gasket for the eccentric shaft sensor. All the bracketry. It fit real good. Tightened down real good. Everything seemed to work out very nice. Now, it doesn't have the oil cap on it. We'll get to that here in a second. We'll take the old one off the old engine. That's easy enough. And overall, really pleased with the price of these valve covers. And, yeah, I know what I'm blabbing about here. Yeah, so it has a new PCV in it. The PCV is replaceable. Even if it does go bad down the road, I could snap it off and snap another one on. I might save the old one just for that reason. It has all the grommets and all the brackets that I'm pointing out. Even has the eccentric shaft motor bracket on it. Everything's pre-installed. Very, very happy with that. And these had really good reviews on them. I'm going to show you here. Everybody makes fun of me because I have 3 different torque wrenches. I have a 1/4 inch, a 3/8, and a 1/2 inch drive. These are Harbor Freight torque wrenches, so they'll torque in reverse or forward. And if you're putting on small bolts like valve cover bolts, it's hard to torque it with a 3/8 or a 1/2 inch drive because you're only going 7 foot-pounds. That's the torque on these. So when you have these little guys, they're not measuring in foot-pounds, they're in inch-pounds and kPa. But you could quickly get on Google and cross over what your foot-pound rating is versus your inch-pounds and figure it out what to set it to. Excuse me. But those 1/4 inch drives, you can hear it click at a smaller torque. You can hear it click louder. And it's a lot more difficult to over-torque it by accident. And that's a real common problem with people using torque wrenches. Make sure you always turn the sliding handle back down to 0 after you're done using it. Don't go banging on anything. You know, I keep them in the case all the time. And here I'm showing my adapters so I could use a 3/8 socket on that 1/4 inch drive ratchet. All my Torx E-sockets and Allen sockets are all 3/8, and that allows me to use those with these, especially on these valve cover bolts. And it's just little things like that makes your life a lot easier. And yeah, you could buy a Snap-on $800 torque wrench or something ignorant, but you don't need that. You're not building a space shuttle, you're building an engine. If it's a fraction of a pound off, it doesn't really matter. Sorry guys, my phone's going off nonstop. So yeah, I mean that's the best way to do it. Those are around $11 a piece to get them on sale from Harbor Freight, man. But anyhow, apologize again. Phone just nonstop goes off, so I'm voiceover recording. It's just kind of the way it works using a laptop for everything. So anyhow, that's pretty much all of that. Don't be afraid to do these jobs yourself. You know, if you could buy the degree wheels for $10, you could buy a $10 torque wrench, and you're in business. And so we're getting pretty close to this engine. We got the stub and everything installed for the axle. We're going to take the belt off of it. We got the timing chain tensioner installed, and we're going to clean the Vanos solenoid filters. I'll show you how to do that in just 1 second. All right, so I don't have any idea how much of this I got on video. Here's what the problem is. Using the GoPro, it's got USB-C connector on it for the microphone. USB-C is freaking junk. USB-C, so Apple has a lightning connector. USB-C was made to compete with the lightning connector. They missed on it. Terrible. It loses connection all the time. It doesn't fit tight in the hole. It's freaking total junk. So what that does, that makes me not have audio or real loud and crackly audio periodically. Now before I would just unplug the mic before I start recording, plug it back in, make sure it's seated good. It would be good to go. But now it's not. Now it's not working anymore. So you never know what you're going to have, and I hate that. We're going to have to do something different. Okay, so what we're going to do here, we're going to go ahead and pull out our filters. So we're going to use a T40 Torx bit. Maybe. These are the filters that go to the Vanos solenoids. And that one is actually overall very clean. There's nothing at all stuck in it. It's like a little microfilter, right? It looks perfect. Let's go ahead and put that back in. They're just barely snugged in there. Pull this one out. These usually aren't stopped up, but it's always wise just to take a look. And that one has just a little tiny bit of crumb stuck in it, but man, overall, very, very good. Let's go and replace that. And if a lot of people, some people think that if those get dirty, we'll probably take a ratchet and snug those up. If those get dirty, it makes the car idle weird. Usually idle weird is the Vanos solenoids themselves. So let's go ahead and flip that around there. Pretty greasy in the front here. Let's get what do we need here? Need a 10. A lot of people are into cleaning these. I tried cleaning the ones in that blue car. It wasn't having it. Period. I'm about to get something. Oh, there we go. We're going to have to get a rag. We don't want any of that oil on that belt. I felt like maybe we should have got a new belt for it. We might do that even yet. Okay, so there's the Vanos solenoid right there. We'll probably clean those up and put those on the shelf for extras. We don't know if they're good or not. It does have a oil ring right there. So we'll go ahead and pull that. We're going to set that in the drain pan for right now. Let that be draining out. Pull the top one out. And when you plug these in on the wiring harness, make sure you have the right plug and the right one. That'll run like total crap if you don't. Same way, look old, probably original. Let's see if we can find a marking on them. These don't seem to be, oh yeah, they're original. Little BMW symbol right there. See it? Probably can't see that. Okay. So, let's get the new ones out and reinstall. Okay, so here we have our aftermarket solenoids. We have really good luck with these. Links in the description for these two on Amazon. I've never had an issue. The nice thing about these are, like a water pump, you don't want a chance, right? You want the OEM stuff for the water pump. I shouldn't be using this. How the hell with this, right? The water pump's really hard to put in. These are a 5-minute job. So if you ever have an issue, take that out of there first of all. Put that back on the old one. If you ever have an issue, you can just swap them out in less than 5 minutes. So if you want to go aftermarket with these, I've always had good luck with them. A lot of people say different, but I think a lot of people will replace these when it's not actually the problem. And then they're all pissed off because it didn't fix the problem. Well, because it wasn't actually the problem. I think let's get a lot of bad rap for that. Okay, so we're all cleaned up. We're just going to reinstall these back in here. It doesn't really matter which one goes where. So basically what we're doing with this build, we're doing all the maintenance at one time. And this usually plagues these motors. All these issues usually plague these motors. Okay, so we're done with the top of it here. Everything's torqued down, coil packs. So I just stuck them back in the holes to keep dirt and anything out. The center shaft motor is back in. We took the oil cap from the old valve cover, put on this one with the grommet, all that stuff. All that is done. So I'm going to cut this video off here. It's going to be too complex. We'll call this one the N52 engine timing and valve cover slash, it's already got too much in it, slash Vanos solenoid and Vanos filter replacement. So we have our oil pan video just uploaded. So this will be tomorrow's. Today is Sunday. And then I guess next up we'll show you do the water pump, all the lines. I did have to order another coolant line, so we had that broken plastic. I guess the water pump, all the water stuff, we'll check the pulleys. We're getting pretty close, man. We gotta knock the collector broken off studs out of the manifolds, switch the AC compressor. Not very long, we'll be putting her back in. So thanks for watching, guys. Have a good day.